Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sit Your Axe Down. I'm Kyle. We've got Lucas up top and special guest today for this special episode that doesn't even get a number of Sit Your Axe Down. This is a breaking news episode. Our special guest today is WATL's own Tyler Flynn down there in the bottom right. So welcome Tyler again for your second episode of Sit Your Axe Down. Yeah, so you guys, I'm sure you've already seen the news on Facebook. If you haven't, go to the discussion page. Tyler, where would they go to?
Yeah, discussion page, or maybe they sent out an email.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
it'll probably be posted by Waddle and then shared into the discussion page. So
yeah, so if you haven't seen any breaking news yet, go check there first.
Breaking news is a little overkill, I think, because it is about 8 months away from being utilized.
Yeah, but this is the most drastic news that anybody's ever gotten in the history of Waddle, I think. As big a impact as this could have.
I mean, definitely the biggest change since I have been throwing Waddle.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes. I can't imagine that shrinking the kills or shrinking the bull is nearly as impactful as this is going to be. But yeah, so if you haven't already seen the changes, then I would pause here and go check those out. So,
the proposed changes for 2024.
Yeah, these are the proposed changes for 2024. If you haven't read them yet, now would be a great time to just pause, go check those out, and then come back, because we're not going to go over every single detail of the new proposed changes. But
actually, we're saying proposed. Tyler, is this proposed, or is this is going to happen?
It's not like super set in stone, but we don't have all the details figured out. And this is I'd say 96% of the way there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's still, like I said, 8 months between now and when they would be used. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some minor changes, but I think overall this is going to be the way that it will happen moving forward. This is going to give you
Hatchet will happen moving forward.
Yes,
correct. Yeah, so that is true. That these changes are just for the Hatchet discipline.
Yeah.
We might see changes like this to things later down the road, but not for 2024. But they are not on the table for 2024 at the very least.
Yep. So, just to emphasize a few things before we go too far and people start, losing their minds or freaking out. This is going to start in 2024, not now. So not till 2024 will this start. And then that means that it wouldn't be used at the first WATC until 2025, which is over 2 years away.
Yeah, WATC 8.
Yeah, so the 8th World Championship, which is a full 2 years away from now, would be the first time that this would be used at Worlds, and it wouldn't be used in regular gameplay for League or tournaments or officially sanctioned tournaments until 2024.
Which that means Mike or Mario, you can't put our feet in our mouth and change it for WATC 7. It has to stay WATC 8.
No,
yeah.
We said it here first.
We have had long talks about this, and for sure WATC 7 will be played on our current 2023 rules, because it does not make sense to play by rules that people did not qualify by.
Right.
Can't agree more.
That means it will be extremely weird. WATC 7 will be weird. Because we will have played a season of the new rules.
Yes.
And then we will go to Worlds.
Yeah, like a season. And then we will, one whole season. Yeah,
and then we will play using the 2023 rules to figure out who is the world champion. So, I don't know. Somebody might just take off that first season.
Yeah, we may all realize how much we hate the new rules, though.
Yeah. But, all right.
All
so,
let's... this is so easy now.
Yeah, going back, it might be wild to see that somebody gets really good at the 2024 rules and then that ups their 2023 rules game
That's
so
true.
much that we might have some interesting changes. I don't know. I personally have not thrown a game on it yet, so I have no real knowledge to share as far as that. But yeah, I mean, we'll let Tyler kind of tell a couple more of the
let's rip the
things that
Band-Aid off. Like,
that he wants to do. But we'll preface a few more things. So, like we said, it's not starting until 2024. None of this that we're about to show or that you've read or anything, none of it is just like random. So there's a lot of thought that's gone into each individual change. So as much as this is set in stone, and there could be small changes, things like, oh, why don't we do this? There's most likely a reason why they're not doing that. And we might not have time to go over all of those in here. And
the only person in the future that can answer those questions is Tyler. So direct
Yes.
all your questions to Tyler.
Yeah. So if you see Tyler in the wild, just bombard him with questions.
This weekend.
Weekend,
they
tomorrow
talked
at
about
Keystone.
the initial release was actually set to be the first week of April, and Mike and I actually decided to do it today, because we were going to be at Keystone, and because there's going to be 200 people there that can like come talk to us and stuff like that, and we want to be open and available.
Definitely will.
I'm aware this is going to be a working weekend for sure.
But all right. So, well, let's just go ahead and pull up the target and let them take a look at it, and then Tyler can
remember
explain.
This is hatchet only. And
hatchet only.
This is
and only 2024.
Yep, 2024 seasons, not WATC 7. So here it is.
Correct.
All right, take it away, Tyler. What are we looking at?
All right. So as promised, we are trying to get this out as early as possible, right? We didn't want to release like, oh, in 3 weeks you're going to be playing on this new target, right? Again, January 24th. That's when you are looking at this on your target board. I don't think many of you will be surprised to see low kills on there. I don't think many of you will be surprised to see multiple bullseyes on there. An overwhelming number of you put on your surveys, like 99%, I think it was like 96%, wanted low kills, wanted multiple bullseyes on the board. I think that was always on the table, was always something that was going to happen.
All right, so I have a quick question for you. So I'm looking at this target, and I just want to make sure, like, those kill shots kind of look like kill shots that like I might draw in my venue now, like where there's a gap in the blue, or is that representing two separate kill shots, like two separate circles inside there, right?
Right. So there's two kill shots, or there's two circles in the kill shot. So essentially the kill shot is going to shrink to 3/4 of an inch, and that will be worth 8 points. However, if you hit where the original kill shot was, the 1.5 inch, you will still be awarded 6 points, as if you had stayed down and hit a bullseye on that throw.
Okay. Cool.
So we aren't actually sure like how exactly we want those drawn.
And these will still maintain. So like that outer kill shot would be the red line, and then like for the bullseyes, are we still red and black line?
Kyle, listen up. He just said they don't know how they're going to draw them.
Gosh. We're imagining that the inner kill will be drawn in blue, right? And then the outer kill will outline in red, drawn in blue, and then the outer kill will just be a red outline.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
It'll look almost like a shrunk bullseye from the center, where you have that white space is the 5, and then
I would rather see it probably drawn with a black for the outline, just so I can see it from 15 feet.
Sure.
Because I probably would have a hard time seeing red that's not colored all the way out to the
that
edge.
That also allows venues to only have to worry about like buying black pins and not having to have red pins.
Well, no, I mean, I think you still need the red for the inside portion of the blue, like your new 3/4 inch kill shot. I mean, I think so, because if you don't have it outlined and then how are you going to tell?
Bleed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One important
that
note
makes
is that
sense.
we are going to go to touch scoring.
That's what I was trying to
Yeah, I mean, I
lead to.
think as much as touch scoring will change, I think you still need to know what you're
A
touching.
definitive
Yes,
mark.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You still need a definitive line, but that does save board changes a little bit, right? Like
Sure.
if you're missing pieces of the line, like it doesn't matter quite as much if all you have to do is touch it.
Sure.
If you don't need it on both sides, then a
And
little
then
piece missing
we
is
can
not
just
gonna
eliminate
kill it.
the pull the axe argument as well.
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
You're touching on
which
one
is
side, so
a terrible thing that people want anyways, because it just slows down the game. And
I mean, I think it would speed up second calls, but we would have 1,000 more second calls.
yeah, and I think that
is that a
we put
proposed naming
more
change too?
we put more emphasis on, do we give judges more power, which I think is what we don't want to do.
Right. I think judges need to be very comfortable with the power that they have and like be willing to use it and stuff. But like be assertive in your calls and things like that. We definitely want that in our judges, but we don't want judges to affect the outcome of the game.
Correct. As much as we can.
Yeah, but we want them to have all the power to advocate for themselves in a match of a player as being unsportsmanlike and things like that. Those are sort of different sort of powers, I guess.
Yeah.
We don't want them to affect the game, but we do want them to have power to advocate for themselves.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So back to the target itself. So we've got high kills, low kills.
Right. So
I'm assuming there's going to be
either value of the high kill. So hitting either the 6 or the 8 will close the kill.
Right.
And then you'll have to go, if you went for a low one, you'll have to go high. If you went for a high one, you have to go low. We are not doing a diagonal thing.
Oh, so not doing diagonal.
We're not doing a diagonal.
Okay.
No, we figured that the vertical change is enough of a change that.
Interesting. Okay. That is not, I did not read that part. So yeah, I mean, I think that changes a lot of things.
Yeah, so now you only
especially
have to practice
for people,
one kill high and one kill
yeah,
low.
For people that have well, you might still want to practice the others because there's going to be a new overtime situation, I think, as well.
So overtime will still be important, which I guess we can talk about since we're on the kill subject. But it also means that like lanes that have that wall to the left or right, if you're like a left-handed thrower, will kind of affect you a lot less.
Yeah, so
you could go for both right ones or both left ones.
Sure. I tell you what, before you talk overtime, maybe it would be more helpful for us to start with like the everyday thrower coming into league.
That's a really good point.
The everyday thrower coming into league, you're starting match number 1. How does the match run? So we're still 10 throws. And I assume you said closing out on kill shots. I assume because I don't assume. I'm saying I assume, but I've already read these rules too. So we're closing the bullseyes. Correct?
Yep.
Correct.
So Lucas said he hasn't thrown on this particular target. I threw on an iteration of this target. Tyler, I mean, let's just talk match. We shouldn't talk scenarios, but our best strategy.
So I think that's important. So like this seems scary and it seems like a lot, but it actually doesn't affect your newer throwers nearly as much as you think it does.
Yeah, I would say honestly at this point, after throwing on it, I would just assume remove the 5 ring on the middle bullseye because I seem to hit them better when there's no ring around it. So just
right.
Get rid of that.
Well, it's kind of like the kill shot thing. Like right now, people's kills percentage better than their bullseyes because I think they just give a little bit more focus, a little more attention to it. Yeah. So maybe they'll just be a little more focused on those outer bullseyes. But in a lot of the iterations of this game, right, hitting the closed bullseye was a 0. And then we sort of took that away. And that made the game sort of unchanged for your newer throwers because, and this is going to be really important for league members or league runners to stress to newer players and stuff too, is that the game essentially does not have to change for them at all. If you're a newer thrower, You don't have to, like, you can stay at the 12-foot line the whole time, which we'll get into in a sec. And you can go for the middle the entire time, right? If in your first 5 throws you happen to hit the bullseye more than once, right, you'll get a 5 for the second one that you hit,
in the
and
center.
you'll lose. Yes, and
Yep.
you'll lose
And it's
a point.
basically, if you hit a bullseye, you can just act as if it's no longer on the board for those 5 throws on that target. Because the same thing will happen if you hit a bullseye in the 3 ring, right? You'll still get a 3.
Correct. If you haven't hit the same bullseye in the 3 ring, you would get a 3.
Yeah. And if you happen to have a really errant throw from your bullseye and you hit a 3 that happens to be a bullseye, you're going to get a bullseye as long as you haven't
Bully
done it
for
twice.
you.
Yeah.
And so,
So
this
if
is
you're throwing a lot of
just-
3s right now, you can see an increase in your average.
This is just bullseyes that are being removed as well. So we're not going full melee where everything you hit closes.
Correct. Only bullseyes will close out. And again, they just act like they aren't there. So you can get a 52 just going straight center the whole game.
Yep.
So if your average right now is under a 52, you probably won't see a huge change in your average.
And you're only likely, I mean, I think you would only be attempting to even go for any of the other bullseyes other than the center if you were averaging higher than that, like often, or throwing higher than that often,
So
right?
the
Like,
math works out to, like, once you're at about a 60% bullseye rate, which is 3 per half, right?
Yep.
Then it makes sense to go for the outer bullseyes.
right.
Um,
And that's, assuming you're not going for any kills and not hitting any of those, etc.
Correct.
So
Um,
yeah, so a regular match for anybody that doesn't want to, because at this point, there's not going to be you have to throw pro or you have to throw amateur for league.
I think we need to, we're gonna rename those conventions as well.
Correct,
because
but
it's not really pros throwing from the second distance. It's gonna be anyone who wants, like, world's bids that are on the line.
yeah, as of
So it's
now,
completely voluntary. So anyone can do it. It's not like it's just for pros. Like,
Yeah.
your entire league could do it if they wanted to.
yeah. So if you've decided that you would not like to, or are not worried currently about making it to Worlds, then you can throw all 10 of your throws from the same 12 feet that you have been. And really the only difference is that now you have other bullseyes that you could go for. But if you're staying in the center, you hit that bullseye more than once, you're just going to get a 5 on the second, third, fourth, any other attempt after you've hit it once.
Right. So realistically, the difficulty scales with how good you are, which I like. Right. A newer thrower is going to see a truly new thrower is going to see their average unchanged.
Yeah.
And then as you get better, right? Like, okay, well, maybe now your average is you hit 2 bullseyes and a half, so now your average is decreasing by 1. Right. And now,
Yep.
once you get better than that and you start going for the outer bowls, you could see your average decrease by 2 because, the misses are 3s instead of 5s, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really a system that affects top throwers a lot more. And the closer you are to the top, the more your average is going to drop, which is
Yes.
really going to
And
kind of,
speaking,
at least initially, even out your leagues pretty
Sure.
well.
and speaking of top throwers, so Lucas kind of hinted at it. Once you are either at a pro status, looking to attain a pro status, or planning on competing at Worlds, then the game changes even more.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the biggest change for sure in all of this is that we are going to be moving back to 15 feet for throw 6 to 10.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring the target back up.
Yep.
So targets back up on screen. We've got throws 1 through 5 from 12. And then we're backing up to 15 for 6 through 10. So 6 through 10 from 15. Throwing the same hatchet for a lot of people will work, and you can still throw single rotation. You may need to go longer. You may need to go to a completely different axe, but you can also do more spins.
Yep. So I actually did a little video. We could link it. I mean, I could send it to you if you want to put it in here, or I was just going to post it separately. So there's sort of like 3 kind of prevailing thoughts that I think people will take. Sort of like 3 paths. You either throw the same hatchet and slow down the rotation, which you can do fairly easily if you know how to control rotation.
You can also just throw harder.
Yeah, but I mean that's a big part of it is throwing harder. Like a lot of people when they started were throwing it like 15 feet with like the Harbor Freight axes. You could just do that.
That could work.
Just baseball it from 15. Perfect. No, I do not suggest that. That's not a legit suggestion. But there are ways to slow down the rotation, for sure. You could, and I imagine actually a lot of people might do this as well, get essentially a 19-inch big axe.
No, stop saying that. That's not a 19-inch hatchet.
Yeah.
Just adding length to your handle.
A super extra medium hatchet.
Yes.
Yeah, but adding weight will also help with that, right? So if you've got like a 2.8 pound, 19-inch, it's going to throw pretty similar to your big axe.
So there's a possibility that Goose is going to see an influx in orders for that pull cue style handle, where you can add length to it.
Add length that way. I don't think that straight adding length is actually going to be as effective as people think.
But I think you could use his pull cue and do the next iteration, which would be the 1.5. You could leave it on for all of your first throws, and then you could unscrew it.
Even smarter.
Yeah, so then you unscrew it. So you go from 17 to 14 or something along there, and then you throw your 1.5, which is something I think that people will probably look at
I think
doing.
1.5 is also a really smart choice here as well, is throwing that 1.5 spin. We will remove all the rules regarding limiting
blade facing,
and the 1 spin stuff. Or John Depke said that 2 spin is the way to go. He's like, no, we're gonna do 2 spin. I was like, it's not smart. No. Don't do that.
Don't do that. But with the rules, it'll be legal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Didn't know.
No, we're just gonna remove any like
spin limitations. Okay. So as many spins as you want, as long as you're behind 15.
Sure.
All right. So
I mean, it's a lot easier than people think it is.
Sure.
So far, when we've brought this to people and had people test it, they as I'm sure a lot of you out there are now, thought this was like nearly impossible. Like, this is terrible. Like, how am I going to do this?
I definitely thought it was going to be terrible.
And
I will say, when I was thrown on, like, whenever I was throwing it, like, I was using a different iteration that you guys had initially talked about, and I kind of liked that better. But yeah, this will be fine too. Surprisingly,
14 instead of 15. Oh, the 7.
Yeah, those 7-point ones.
Yeah.
But I personally thought 1.5 low kills were surprisingly easy.
They are easier than high kills from 1.5. I think currently. But I think that's
probably the better. Easier was probably the better word. Not
I think
easy.
I think that's just because naturally from further your axe is going to drop more.
Sure.
Not drop on the ground, but literally just end up being lower than anticipated. And it's just going to change how you have to aim with 1.5 too, because you have to kind of think about how that's going to land and a couple of things. But
Yeah, I mean,
basically what Tyler
from
was
people
saying.
throwing melee now too, like even from throwing one spin, when you're aiming lower, you actually want to be further from the target.
Yeah,
Sure.
so I would always tell my hatchet throwers last year, like, so I remember just specifically like somebody dropped because like they hit, but it was just like slightly under rotated. They hit the kill, but it just didn't stick, and I was like, hey, just scoop back like 2 inches, literally just 2 inches, do your same throw,
Mhm.
same aiming, boom, and it hit next time. That's literally kind of what you're gonna have a little bit more adjusting to have to do with each of these. So that's why low kills is going to be a nice addition. It's going to be another iteration that you're going to have to, be able to do.
And kind
But
of
I
with
think
knife too, like we might see people going 4 kills in the front half
maybe
if they're down.
the last two knife tournaments two of the knife tournaments that I've won this year, I've had to hit a kill at from the front. Like my one spin has not been great. But I will get behind, like I'll look over and they've got 6-6-5 or something, and I've got 4-4. And I'm like, well,
Well,
What are we talking about knives for? This is hatchet.
here goes nothing. Because we're talking
but
about
similar to knives, like so
we're
Yeah,
knives
it's
talking about
throwing
the
from up
risk
front.
and
Yeah.
not necessarily
yeah,
waiting till throw 9 because it's harder to do it on throw 9 and it's
yeah.
sort of
I
So
think it'll
more
almost
good.
become a regular thing for people to throw at least one kill from up front.
Especially
possibly,
like you said, you think that the 1.5 is easier low, so like you might use your high one in
100%.
half.
If I'm gonna
I think
throw,
it all depends. If my opponent decides to try and use one of their kills at the beginning
hmm,
and they don't hit the 8, or even if they do, and I've pulled out, I'm likely not that worried about it if I've gotten to the point where I think I can hit sixes from the back. Because I mean, if you miss one of those, now I'm still winning by one.
But that's
quick,
the other thing about this game is that leads are not nearly
Leads are
as
not going to be safe. It's going to be like knife, where it's not over till it's over, which I know
here's a
we're
quick
bringing
one.
it back to knife, but
Are you allowed to switch what you're doing in the back?
what?
Can you start 1.5 and switch to single rotation?
yeah, why not?
Okay, I'm just checking.
You're saying like change how you're throwing between each throw, like throw 6, you
Like,
throw 1.5, and throw 7, you
but
throw single.
if I need to, I can switch axes again.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Axe caddies, they're gonna be a thing.
there's just gonna be a lot of different strategies and a lot of things that even we can't think of right now, having not played against somebody and not had enough of this. But kind of like what Tyler was saying earlier, they've presented this to venues and they presented it to throwers of all different skill levels and averages. And I think there's going to be two different things that happen. I think a lot of people have told Tyler that they love it, and I believe them that they do love it for the first 5 minutes that they tell him, and they probably will then throw on it and not really think about how it might change things for the next year. And then they might hate it.
I
Like
also
this
think
is
that
really fun, and all of a sudden my average is 5 points lower,
Yeah.
and I
I
didn't
also think a
anticipate
lot
that.
of people love it from a thrower's perspective.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of different perspectives, but I think there will also be the same amount of people that hate it right now. Right now, you're listening to this podcast and you're like, this is the stupidest thing. I was just getting close. I was just throwing 60s. I was just now able to, compete what I felt like at tournaments and make pro league and all of these things. And now I don't feel like I'm going to have that opportunity. But I think that you're also not thinking about the future, probably. And within, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, you might feel differently about it. And so I think there's going to be a lot of different takes on the new rules and how that affects each person differently, from a thrower as well as a venue owner. Because like one of my things as a venue owner is and as a competitor too is it seems like there's going to have to be some sort of stencil that's going to have to be made to accurately at least get distance correct on some of these.
Oh,
um
so that I'll just say one quick point on that too is that we do want to create in the rules a like a guideline for where they should be more than an exact location.
Okay.
So a
will help a little
tolerance,
bit.
basically. You want to have a
Yeah,
tolerance.
which
So like
will help
instead of saying
somewhat.
it needs to be centered in the 3 at 54.25 inches, it'll say it needs to be centered in the 3 between 54 and 54.75 inches from the ground.
It is very easy to, without any stencil, like center that and put it pretty close
Yeah,
to
I
where it needs
think
to be.
I think putting it there is going to be fine for like when you're drawing a target that's already drawn. But I think that if you're trying to mass produce targets like for a tournament, it's going to be really easy to see this bullseye
If
here
there's
and this one
yeah.
here. And I think that, it's okay. You're still aiming at something, but I think it's annoying when you go somewhere and like one kill is, 1 inch, 2 inches higher than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I think we're going to see the same type of thing where until,
Yeah.
and I think maybe there's just going to be a third party. I actually was just thinking I'm probably going to go on my laser and cut the 3/4 inch kill thing to where you can just put it inside of a kill and make a ring. So
Yeah, almost
that'll
like the
be
perfect 6, but like mini.
so yeah, you'll actually probably see some of those at Keystone. So if you want one,
The other thing
yeah.
is like you could also probably just order washers that have a 3/4 inch ID.
Tyler, I can't sell
diameter.
washers to
And,
people. Shut up.
My bad. No, they don't exist. No one sells
Yeah.
washers.
Well, I don't know if they make them that are just 1/4 of an inch. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there that you could find that are 3/4 in the middle and a
Yeah, you can get an
and a half.
inch and a half with a 3/4 inch inside. Yeah, you can do that for sure.
Yeah, you
No,
can
those
definitely
are
do that.
definitely more specialized and probably cost a lot of
Yeah,
money,
you'd have to
honestly,
find like
but
a bolt and nut. Like
Yeah, but
specialty store
instead
to
of
get 'em.
that, you can just hit me up and I will get one to you. I'll have clear, blue, red, and white.
perfect.
No, you're not.
Why?
You're gonna make them right now.
Yeah,
When,
right now.
when the tournament's tomorrow.
Yes.
All right, we'll see.
Just hey, we'll see. Let me know if you want one. Just come find me at Keystone or message me.
Why don't you just make one that's focused on the center bullseye that branches out to all 5?
I don't. That sounds harder. I'll have to do like math and stuff, and I'll have to see these tolerances in the new rules to know exactly what I need to do.
True.
Yeah, so those exact heights and distances will have to be, I think, is one of the things that we're going to have to sort of figure out and test. If a few venues want to do like a marathon league to see how badly they get chewed up, how long they last, things like that, that would be super helpful.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that got brought up at one point in a discussion was like, oh, this is going to help spread board wear. Well, from a venue owner perspective, venue owners are going to go, well, those spots are going to get tore up way faster. So we're going to be now changing more boards probably for league. So that's slightly a concern for me.
I think that the way we sort of looked at it, what I think will happen is that prior to league or a tournament starting, you'll probably have to replace more.
Yep.
There's going to be more labor on the front because that area does get beat up by customers.
Yeah.
And doesn't get changed out as much. But I think during the league and during the tournament, you will have to replace far less.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
For Hatchet, I think obviously the quick math is that almost, if not more than 5 times more usage out of the boards.
Right.
Because I mean,
essentially, you'll have to replace more at the beginning of the day, for sure.
Yeah, at the beginning of the day, but I mean,
and touch helps that too. So.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's why at least 5 times, possibly more times than that, because of touch being a thing, and it'll kind of depend on how people throw. But I think with kills and things like that, I think at least 5 times more usage out of boards for Hatchet.
And there is some hesitancy with the smaller kill too, but I think that because now there's 4 kills for one, you're spreading out kills far more. And you also honestly, it's going to be a while before people are hitting the center of them that consistently, especially if you're going for them on like 9 and 10.
Correct. I think 9 and 10 is dead. I mean, just an agreement of 9 and 10 is dead. I mean, will there
If
be
you're
people
tied, maybe.
Maybe, but I think if you're tied, somebody's already gone for one.
Probably. Which is one of the goals, right? Like the kill
Yeah, I mean,
shot was
I don't
always
think there's
meant to
anything
be
wrong.
a comeback mechanic, not a protect your lead mechanic.
One of the things that I wanted to see, and I think it's maybe not as important now, but I think it was frustrating from a thrower's perspective of I just beat you for 8 throws, at least 8, maybe 9 throws. I beat you. And then I missed one throw by a very small amount and the other person hit. And now I lose, even though that
how many
person,
games I lost this year alone?
yeah, with
56
that.
to 63.
Yeah. I mean,
I
at least there you both missed the same amount. So
yeah.
it
But
should
yeah,
have,
it is
I
worse
think
when it's
it,
like 62 to 56. Like
yeah,
that's
like,
awesome.
right.
That's like even worse. Like, yeah.
62, 56, or even
61. Like
6 times 9, 50, 54. You know how many times I've thrown a 54 and missed just that last kill, and the other person missed like 3 bullseyes.
Yeah.
And I missed no bullseyes. So I think that'll go away too with this, at least at the beginning.
I do think like it's going to be far less of a thing.
I think there's just going to be a lot of strategy. I mean, just thinking about it for the short time that I have, I'm already like, I think that middle bull is going to be so much more important than people think.
It's going to be the last
People are
one to
gonna-
throw it.
It's going to be on
for
the
sure
second
the
half
last
for
one.
sure.
And until people are like deadly with the center kills, I'm staying down probably.
Yeah.
Like if you hit that and you beat me, I mean, obviously a certain amount of points I'm not staying down, but 2, I'm probably still like, I'm confident that I can hit a bull. And if I hit a 5 and you miss the kill and hit a 6 kill, then I still win. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting, strategy and things like that. But
and I think that's going to slow the game down for the first few months.
For sure.
But I think then people are going to sort of get into the like, they know what they do when they're X down or X ahead. Just kind of like now. Like right now, we know what you do. Like, you know what you do when you're behind by X or ahead by X. There's more scenarios next year. So there's sort of like, because like, I'm on throw 7 and I'm up by 2. Do I want to take a chance and just throw a say 5 if I've already hit the center bowl?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a point where you're up by enough where like you going for an outer bull is not necessary.
Detrimental to your game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like if you miss by a little bit, you're now giving them an opportunity to get back into the game. So I think you'll see people strategically going for 5s at some point.
But then again, if you do that like 3 times in a row and they hit all 3 of those 6s, that's a 3-point swing. So that 4-point lead's now 1, and now you've got to follow them up for kill.
Yeah, it definitely is going to depend how it's going. Like you can't do it too early. Like you can't from the first half if they miss one, you can't just start going for the middle. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
So everything you guys or everything that we're talking about right now is strictly from a pro or someone trying to attain pro status. Here's an interesting one. What about foot faults for leagues where you have a pro thrower throwing against somebody who's not? So somebody's throwing all their throws from 12 and the other person's going to be throwing from 15. What happens when you have a thrower who's maybe a little faster? Both people have crossed 12. Does that person like, is there going to be a foot fault called if that person throws from 12 when half my foot's on the 15? So
I don't think so. I think it'll work similar to knife for foot faults, like after
you're
the
saying
throw,
like,
or like the hard fault is 12, kind of like with knife, like you can't cross the 15 while you're
I think
throwing,
he's saying
like,
before though.
Yeah,
I'm saying
like person I'm throwing against in league, we both crossed. 12.
throw practice.
Yeah.
Throw practice, coming back. Well, I guess not
This will be
practice.
pre-throw. This will be we've
swapping
swapped
targets.
lanes. Yeah.
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 And you throw before I make it to 15.
Yeah, or just simply from a like I'm returning from retrieving my axe. We've both crossed 12. But maybe I'm they're across 12 before I am and pretty much ready to go.
Right.
I think the good news is that you won't have to worry about that at a tournament.
Well, sure.
Right. So like no game that with anything on the line will involve that scenario. So I think that can be like a, hey, I don't think it's a fault, but I think it might be like a, hey, you should wait for him.
It would be more of an
behind
etiquette issue than a rule issue.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I would say that it is not a fault because I think the rules would still be like 12.
Because I think that's going to be one of the most confusing things is that in League you're going to have people throwing basically two separate games.
And that's a question that I anticipate we're going to get a lot today. So hopefully we can head that off a little bit here. Is that the app will distinguish this?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Just like confusing from a thrower perspective, like it's just going to be one more thing that is just there. Like
if you're a newer thrower and like the other person's going back to 15, I think like the first week or two, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it might be like, why are they doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be quick to become a normal thing.
Yeah,
but it will for sure be weird at first.
Yeah, and the foot
one thing we wanted to do with these changes is again make it as simple as possible on the judge. So nothing changes from the judge's perspective on this. The target is exactly the same. The app is exactly the same. The only thing that's different is that if you're trying to get those pro circuit points, like trying to get to worlds, you're going to go from 15 feet in the second half. But other than that, like the judges are judging everything exactly the same otherwise.
Just touch now, and then there's likely going to be buttons that say like left top bull and bottom right bull and things like that.
Yeah, so actually in the rules outline, I'm gonna I did put in a like what I imagine the app will look like.
Yeah, something similar to that.
And hey, we're getting rid of like we need to get rid of the target view on the app too.
100%. Just see it.
If you're using the target view, I don't know why.
Well, I mean, like the only people I think who can successfully use the target view right now are young children, like or extremely petite females.
Yeah.
Because like you can fat finger everything on those.
For sure.
I think the only thing I have to figure out is how the app is going to distinguish between the kills right now. Like if you hit a 6 versus hitting an 8. But maybe that's just I just got to talk to the app team about what they think is best too. Maybe it's once you call kill shot, it actually just brings up a different screen.
Yeah, just put a plus minus button basically. Kill plus, kill minus. Yeah. One's worth 8, one's worth 6. So what ultimately determined the 6 and 8 on the kill shots? So like, I mean, I get it. It's the same size as the bullseye.
So that was a pretty common thread in the discussion, right? That the survey we sent out, and it's been a common thing for a while. Is that we have two targets on the board that are the same size but worth different amounts of points, right? And once you get to a point where like you're actually aiming at the target, like people's kill percentages is just as high as their bowl, or if not higher. And like Lucas said, right, like you both hit 9 out of 10 of the same size target, but like one person wins by 7. It just seems weird. So I like the idea that the same size target yields the same amount of points. But also just doing some math, like you're more likely to have a 2-point difference going into that throw than you are a 1-point difference.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to see 3-point differences.
Right. And then you're gonna have
more
one
than
person staying down on one, and then you're gonna have a lot of ties maybe going into 10. Unless I can hit a 6, right?
yeah.
But then again, like you were saying, if someone hits 2 8s in a row at different heights, and I chose to stay down on one of them, I don't know. They kind of earned that one.
Yeah, like they asked for that.
Right.
So one of the things that
But like again, that's not like that is one thing that I could see. Like if people really did feel like I did some math and showed some stuff, I could see it being 5 or 7. Because I heard people say both. I personally like 6, but like I think we're open to either other value too. I don't think it should be 8 for sure.
Yeah,
oh sure.
And
I
again,
agree. It
I don't
shouldn't
like the
be
idea that
8.
the same size should be more than the bullseye.
Correct. I think the only I think there could be a valid argument after playing the game a lot that maybe it should be
Yeah.
7.
I
But
think that's what we're missing. It's like we need like a tournament or marathon,
or multiple of those things to
right?
be able to
To
tell,
like
right?
really see
Because
how the scenarios
Well,
work.
why don't we just do one after
We are doing one after PLS, Kyle. It's already decided.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to make the podcast more interesting. So wait, now you just
Oh,
ruined
you're
that.
pretending like we
I'm
haven't
just
decided.
pretending like we haven't done that.
yes,
So
use your pretending
Ah,
voice.
Kyle.
yeah.
No, but we are gonna have a for those of you if you want to attend PLS number 2.
Yeah,
we're
so
gonna
if
do
you
a little tester tournament
if
on
you
Sunday.
haven't signed up yet, which you have what 1, 2, 3, 4
days,
well, including
Got a couple
today,
of days.
you've got like 5 more days guaranteed sign up. So
Yep.
now, well,
we just had a bunch sign up
no,
the other day too.
five more
so-
days. I'm way off on that. I'm sorry. You have 2 more
4.
days of guaranteed sign up because
Thursday, Friday,
tomorrow's
Saturday,
the 31st and Saturday is the 1st. So 2 more days of guaranteed sign up because today is Thursday. So 2 more days guaranteed sign up. So if you haven't signed up, do it because now you're going to get at least a run through of what these new rules might look like, even though it might be pretty ugly for a lot of people if you've never thrown on it, but it'll at least be.
I will also.
really
I
good
purchased
time.
a bunch of access to Bring that people can try 1.5 or try longer handles, things like that.
Yeah, but
So you won't need to worry
axe games,
about.
though, right? They're what?
No,
No,
would never let
no,
Cold Steel.
no, don't even think about those.
No,
Um,
well, this isn't this is a Sit Your Axe Down with Throw Pros. This isn't a WATL affiliated thing.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
sure.
But personally,
Yeah, so for to cut off anyone who's like, oh, the pros are getting an advantage because they get to like go test it. Like you can test it. You have the rules.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
Like,
the rules now.
there's
You
no
have the
advantage here.
targets.
That's why we wanted it out like 9 months in advance, right? There's no
9 months
like,
until 2024, 2 years until it actually matters,
championship,
World Championship. So, yeah, it's a long time and a lot of.
And can you imagine like what if we made even a small change, or if we made or made no changes, what scores look like? Based on your last podcast, what those scores look like in 2 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, so it would. I mean, you would have a massive plateau in the top,
Right.
the top 50. Massive plateau,
Yeah.
and that would just mean that the game would be that much more boring to watch. Now,
Right.
we have had a fair amount of people who have not a fair amount of people. There's been a couple people who have mentioned like we talk about a lot of pro things, or top level thrower things on here. And I get that, but like that's where you're seeing the most change is on that pro side. So if you're not at a pro level yet, you've got 2 years basically to throw on this target, dial in.
And I will say
your
this
aim.
is also the first steps towards like a pro-am divisional thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that also would so we were talking earlier about leagues. You've got your pros and your non-pros who are throwing different, and we talked worlds will be all pro rules.
They will be played on the pro rules for sure. How we qualify is also like something we haven't quite figured out.
Sure.
But there's going to be a large incentive to throw your leagues on the pro rules.
I mean, I would assume, even though there hasn't been anything said, I would assume, and I know people say it's wrong to assume, but like, there's gonna have to be some type of difference at tournaments. Otherwise, I feel like we would run the risk of creating a big division with throwers where people just won't go to tournaments because it'll be all pro rules. I assume there's going to be a divisional difference where there'll be standard and pro rules, right, or whatever you want to call it. Road to the WATC rules, whatever.
What that looks like, I don't know. I think in 2025 and beyond, there might. I envision that there will actually be a pro and an AM worlds.
Yeah, and I mean nothing.
I don't think we're going to be
on there
for WTC 8.
Nothing that you're saying.
But this is the first step.
In regards to this, is anything set in stone? This is just Tyler and our envisioning of what it looks for. So like none of this part.
But I mean, for those of you talking like who are worried about like pros and AMs and that kind of stuff, like this is the first step towards that. Like it looks like it's making it harder for pros, but it is the first step towards trying to kind of create those divisions. And there's other stuff that I can't talk about that is going to
sure
that is going to make you feel better about this as well. About pro and amateur stuff. We have some specific events specifically sort of tailored for amateur throwers and getting them exposure and things like that.
Yeah, you don't have to talk anymore about that.
That's coming down the line. Coming soon.
Once it is more set in stone, you will have all the details of that as well.
I figure there's going to be not a large faction of people, but I feel like there's going to be a small group of people who immediately point at IETF, Standard, and Premier, and and the backlash that got. So I think that this is definitely totally different because one, it's we're almost in April, so we've got the rest of 2023 before this even really starts, and then we have all of 2024 before there's ever going to be a tournament. Where when IETF made that change, it was like post IETC, here's the new rules.
And then that changed after like a season, right? Wasn't there like?
Well, yeah, because there was
the box and the smaller
major backlash.
It changed. Yeah, it changed more than. I mean, it changed at least after a season. I threw a season before the box.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I thought. The box wasn't always.
Yeah. So I will say, like, this is definitely like a great step in the right direction for WATL to come out super early with this change.
That was my main goal, right? The other big difference I see with this is that in IETF rules, your entire league has to do one or the other.
Sure.
You have to decide on a league by league basis. This you do not. You decide on an individual basis, and your league,
which as a venue owner, that's extremely helpful.
You can have one person throwing pro rules. And 70 other leaguers throwing at the 12-foot line, and it does not matter. Like,
jeez, I'd love.
I think IETF hurt
71 people in the league.
I like it.
Ironside, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But I also actually like in talking to some other, like even the casual leaguers in our area. Granted, we do fun stuff with them all the time, but a lot of them were like, yeah, I'd probably do it just because it sounds more fun.
Sure.
Like, they might do the pro rules just because it sounds more fun.
I'm going to put them in that category of, yeah, that sounds fun.
And then their scores
one week into league. I really made a bad decision.
And then when they have 5 drops on the back half, you're like, well,
Yeah.
Or they've
Yeah. They're
broken
like,
3 axe handles trying to throw 1.5.
yeah, they've got all threes from the back and a two.
Which is like a legitimate
sure. And then
concern
one
for
thing I
some people.
will say for people too is like your normal hatchet that you throw at 12 feet, you probably don't want to throw 1.5 at 15.
Yeah, don't do that.
Like it was not made to do that. It was made to throw one spin at 12 feet.
Or one spin at 15, depending on your hatchet.
Sure, sure. I think big pro tip, the best axe to use here is a short recurve and handled axe. Right?
Maybe.
Even though it's short, it'll slow down the rotation a little bit at 12. It'll be perfect. You go back to 12, turn it around for 1.5, and the recurve does the exact opposite. It helps the rotation. So you'll be able to do just more of your normal throw. I think that's going to be the way to go.
If you're looking
So
to
you
throw
think,
a single axe.
yeah, I
If you're
don't
gonna
think
throw,
there'll be that
if you're
many.
gonna throw a single axe,
Yeah, I don't think there'll be that many people throwing a single axe. I mean, I think you obviously can,
correct.
but I just think you'll see a lot of people that try to throw two different things.
Right, and that was an intentional choice as well. There was talks about restricting that, right, making you throw the same axe.
So I would say that my only beef with any of the new rules is that I do personally believe that like we should be forced to do one or the other from 15. Like everyone is either throwing 1.5 or everyone is either throwing single spin with a longer hatchet.
But the problem is for people that throw two handed, that's
Sure,
much more dangerous. And I don't think I mean, I think having options just makes it more open to everyone.
yeah. I mean, if you're talking forcing 1.5, if you're forcing single rotation from 15 feet, then you're not as uninclusive.
Again, I think it leaves it open to more people just because then you don't have to possibly get different axes and things like that too. I mean, and then you at least have a choice, right? So let's just say you aren't comfortable throwing 1.5, or you can't throw hard enough from there because of a rotator cuff issue or something, then now you do have the option to still have a nice, light, easy throw, like with a 1.5.
The other thing to keep in mind is that 1.5 is going to be a lot easier for like people in wheelchairs.
Sure.
It will be a lot harder for them to get the momentum for a one spin from that 15 feet. But a 1.5, like you said, like an axe gig 1.5, it like Bryce Lott could nail a kill with that, no problem.
Yeah. Or nice
But
harbor.
I mean,
Nice
I don't know if he
hatchet's
throws
better.
big axe or not, but yeah, or an ace hammerhead is they're a really good 1.5 as well.
And they're way thinner out of the box.
Because the thing is, it wouldn't be any different than his normal hatchet throw.
Sure.
Like nothing would change. Like so, he doesn't need even more power.
Yeah, just better aim.
So
that'd be it.
Right, yeah, it's a little bit different, right? It's a weirder throw, so you got to get used to it. But a 1.5 spin does not require more power or arm strength or shoulder strength or things like that. Whereas I do feel like if we required a one spin, it might restrict that a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, definitely requires more control over your muscles, at least in the shoulder.
Yeah. So. Right. So people with shoulders and people who can't throw big axe might have more of an issue there.
Yeah.
Not that it is fully as heavy as a big axe or anything like that, but
anything else that we want to touch on the rules? Or I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that other people have, like
for sure.
Trying to think through what some of those questions will be. And I think one of them was, why not put a 5 ring around the outer bulls?
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good question that I think we are going to get a lot. And that has to do with it. I actually think it
It's
would
it's a safety net.
right, and it
You remove the
doesn't
safety
change
net
the
and it
game.
gets better.
It
That's
doesn't change the game at all.
yeah. It would not change it for
I will say I
it
was
would
It would
one
change the game. It would not change the game for pro throwers. It would change the game for non-pros,
I
which
was
is the exact opposite of
1000%
what
the
we want.
guy that said I wish there were 5 rings around those. And after
Yeah.
throwing on it, I am now firmly okay with removing the 5 ring from the center bullseye.
Yeah,
So
but that's also
Because
why it is in the 3 ring and not the two
the
ring
two ring,
yeah,
right?
or the 1 ring, and also why it's not just up and down. Because I think that also provides a safety net. You would see people aiming for a upper bull and trying to clip the bottom of it so that they could still get a 4 if it was in the 3 ring, and things like that. Whereas now, pretty much, if you miss this bullseye and you were any amount of accurate, you're going to get a 3.
Right.
And 3,
If you were within where the 5 ring would be,
right.
you are going to get a
And
3.
and a 3 is going to make it to where, so if it was in the 2, it almost is so much of a difference that now it's very, very hard to come back. Whereas being in
Although
the
even a
3,
4 point difference in this is not
yeah,
crazy.
not crazy, but 2 of those puts it out of reach
Yeah, for sure.
almost. And so I think that 3 is a close enough option that you can still come back from it.
sure.
And it just makes it more competitive for everyone.
Especially if someone like use their middle bowl early. A 3 point game, if I can hit the 8, well, are you going to play the safe 5 to tie me, or are you going to try and go for the 6 and the 3 ring?
Right. Yeah, there's going to be, I mean, we can't even really talk strategy without playing a lot of these things, but
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be one of the questions. And so hopefully that answers that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So basically, like if you put the 5 ring around it, the only people it affects are people who normally hit 4s. Which again, if you look at the pro leaderboard, like John did the stats on that, it's like one in 280 throws people are hitting. Like
yeah,
when you get to the top 10 there. So like, okay, you're gonna hit a 1-3. That didn't change. Okay, so Dylan threw a 17-11. That's not moving the needle.
yeah,
Um, One final thing about like just the changes in general and how they're coming about and why now, is like we talked about how this is a perfect time because we have 2 years now before these would go into effect. Makes this a great time to put them out. With moving the WTC this year, kind of gives us an extra buffer. But we also, when we were looking at the rules, the previous rule changes, right, were all done to address a specific issue in the game. Like, oh, we need to make it a little bit harder because people are hitting too many bulls. Or, oh, Kump and Sycon went 26 deep on kills in overtime. We need to change it. They have these quick fixes to things. And we kind of looked and said, well, what do we want the game to look like in 2029? Like in
changing lanes
five
after 10
years.
straight kill shots.
yeah,
And then it's like, well, if we know what we want the game to look like in 2029, why not just do that? Right. Rather than make changes every single year to get to that point, just go to that point, accept that it's going to be rough for a year for some people. And the majority of the people playing the sport in 2029 will not know the difference. Right. Dylan Teets never threw on anything but the current rules.
True.
yeah. And I mean, I threw half of a year on Old Bull. Or
Right.
one year
But
on Old
it's
Bull.
sort of like when
Yeah,
you
1
did
year.
that, there was like 4,000 unique people throwing in league.
Yeah.
Right. But before the most recent rule change, there are now over 11,000 people who have played a league. So 60 some percent of people never have played on the old rules.
Yeah.
On what other than what is current. So that trajectory continues. I mean, people are going to The vast majority of axe throwers won't know the difference.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting in a year or two to think back about where it was.
Right.
Yeah, I do feel like there's still going to be. I feel like throwers are going to be the ones that accept this the fastest. I still feel like there's going to be flack from venue owners.
I think so.
And I mean, Lucas and I both were both venue owners. I will say, and I assume that we can say this, but when we first talked about this, we're also council members. So when we first talked about it on the council members, Lucas and I were very hard on all these changes from a venue owner perspective.
Yeah.
I think Tyler thought we were going to come on here today and bash all of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I still have
also,
my concerns.
Sure.
I think you two will do just fine. I think that there are some venues with some cause for concern because they aren't as engaged with their league throwers.
Sure.
Right. I trust that you guys can explain this because, like we talked about, it does not affect most people.
And also, if you're in a venue where you're maybe not as engaged with your throwers, but you have throwers in your venue who have participated in Melee, those throwers are probably going to pick these rules up a little quicker because it is slightly similar to that in that there are things that are closing and stuff like that and more targets on the board and stuff like that. So lean on those throwers to help with that. And you know, it'll be okay. I mean, I think WATL is prepared for some people to stop throwing. I think that's to be expected. That there will be people, whether that's that they just feel like they aren't going to progress as much as they want to, or as fast as they want to, or that that they're just somebody who's just like going to be mad that there was a change.
Don't worry, we'll have somebody on in the next day or two that'll give us all of that.
Well, I thought we were going to do that later today, or well, I guess we'll do like. Probably,
but it won't
probably
be
after some of the Keystone.
Ian is going to be so mad.
Yeah.
So here, like we see attrition. I think the most common attrition in axe throwing is when you have the people who have been throwing for a year and don't feel like they're progressing enough.
Sure.
Right. I think that, and it's a year or two, and then they give up. I think this would expedite the exodus of some of those people. But I think that the vast majority of those people were going to leave in another year or two anyway.
Yeah, which from a venue owner perspective, like that's still income for a venue.
Yeah, it still sucks.
For sure.
Yeah, it still sucks a lot. So
yeah, I don't know that it brings enough excitement that we're also going to get those spots filled by any means. And I mean, I have other concerns from not a venue owner, but from a tournament.
And I think that it's very legitimate concern too.
If people stop going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have I know that WATL doesn't have certain answers yet to the public and or to the council. Like I don't know their plan for some of the things and how some of it will work. And so I have concerns about how like a tier 1 size and tier 2 size will affect a lot of things too. But I think it's just one of those things where like you're not going to know until it starts to happen. And then people will make their decisions. We can
speculate.
We can always speculate and we can try to come up with things. But I mean, even now it's hard to go to a tournament and, have a prize pool that is what it was advertised in some cases. And is as much as, like previous years, just because tournament signups might be lower and things like that. So I think with the rules, unless there are non-official, amateur is the best term for it now, but tournaments that don't utilize these new rules that take place as well, then I think we're going to see less people at tournaments.
I can see some like pro-ams happening where people could sign up for either division. The unpopular opinion in those is going to be that the AM prize pool, though, would be significantly less.
I don't know necessarily. I think if those come with other perks other
Like
than money.
bids.
Yeah, like a guaranteed bid or like a free entry into the pro tournament, things like that. I think there's going to be certain things that can be provided to the amateurs that will be as meaningful to them
Because I
in
mean,
some cases.
right now we have
money.
probably, I would say 40% of people that sign up for a tournament have no expectation of placing.
Sure. I mean, I would say that more than that show up and are hoping to get more than one circuit point. Like they're not so much
Yeah.
worried about placing in the money as they are, will I
Right.
get 5 circuit points that could push me over the edge to get me an opportunity to throw at Worlds?
Sure.
And so I think those type of people will see value in going and traveling to a tournament to get an opportunity to get an automatic bid into Worlds. Now, I'm sure they will be seated very low had they not been throwing with the tournament rules for the rest of the year, and they would likely want to switch to those so that they would know get some practice under their belt. But I think there's going to be some options for things like that. But without knowing how that's going to work, I think we're just speculating and
then those
and
are,
kinda guessing.
just not answers we have right now.
Yeah,
Right.
and I don't think
just-
that I don't think that WATL needs those answers now. I think they're doing the responsible thing by putting out these rules 2 years in advance so that they can get feedback
find the answers.
and maybe give them time to find those answers, but also give time to the throwers to at least know what to expect.
Lucas, you just said feedback, and Tyler, you guys put out a jot form for people to give input on this, correct? Like to give input on potential changes or what they want to see different, right?
Yeah. So
how many you guys posted that in the discussion group, correct?
Correct.
And how many people responded? Can you
I think we had like 310 responses.
310. There's 10.1 thousand people on the discussion page. And 310 people gave
good
response. So
inevitably, I suspect inevitably you'll get way more responses on this.
Right.
There's going to be a ton of negative, probably. I mean, just initially, because that's what happens.
I think it'll be equal.
But I think the negative is going to be more vocal.
Well, yeah, for sure. That's the only time people
more people will like it than dislike it, honestly.
Yeah, but what I'm getting ready to say is,
initially I was not.
For those people who are going to get on and talk negative about this, if you're not one of those 310 people who gave feedback, don't even post. And if you're thinking of commenting on it, if you're not one of those 310 people who gave feedback, don't even comment on it, because it just creates division, and we don't need that, especially when we're changing something this big.
So I will say, like, legit questions,
yeah,
right, and stuff like that.
But like, negativity for the sake of negativity, which is what happens.
I think it's going to be equal.
It's not going to be great. But I'm happy to talk with anyone about reasonings, about stuff like that. But I'm far more willing to engage with someone who's like, hey, can you tell me the reasoning behind X versus this is so stupid. Why the fuck would you do this?
Yeah. Dang it. Now I think it's going to be select equal. The button that says this is not for kids.
Yeah.
Ah, man.
No. PG-13. We're allowed one.
No.
I think that you will be surprised. I think there will be just as many. There'll be just as many people that are for it and that talk about it. Now, will there be like a couple of negative people that will just post everywhere and every comment about it? They'll probably be more vocal
now. Like,
yeah, and then I assume Tyler will come up with some more forums too that are asking for feedback over the next couple of months.
No forums, just see them in person.
Yeah, that too. But make sure you participate. If you're a venue
that wants to run like a marathon on this, like an unofficial marathon, like.
The problem is
let us know how it goes.
It would be. I'll tell you right now, it would be the hardest thing on earth to run a marathon. Until
because
the app,
people are getting points.
Oh yeah.
No.
Until
just because works. It would take a I mean, I could maybe run a marathon of 4 people if I wanted to hand score 28 matches. But I can't
so
put in
you
the
wouldn't
scores.
really need to. Like, if you understand the rules,
Right,
it's
but
not
The
that
kill
hard.
shots, you can't put in the app.
Well,
you
no,
could
you can
just hit
just
another
mark them as
bullseye.
6.
Mark it as
Yeah,
a
you could
bullseye.
hit another
Yeah,
bullseye.
that's true.
You could. It would just be hard
And if
to
they
run
hit the
one.
center bullseye again, you just need to remember if you hit the center bullseye again to just hit
Yeah.
a 5 instead of a 6.
It would be doable. It would just take the correct person, like somebody that really is in tune with what's going on, and you would need several judges that also understood
know
exactly
the
what's going on.
rules and stuff
So
like
it
that.
would take. I mean, it could be done currently with the app.
But also, like, because it's unofficial, if your scores
You
aren't
just do
like perfect,
self.
like
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah. And
Um,
obviously you could self-score, so you would need a handful of throwers that actually know what's going on. I mean, I think it would be useful, but it would be challenging to get a full marathon of people to do it.
Sure.
But
I'm thinking like 6 to 8 people, like,
yeah,
and,
I'll
like,
just
throwers who
make
are interested in it, you know.
I'll make an app for you guys, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have that at Keystone too if you guys need it.
Perfect. It'll just make
You
it
sure?
today.
You sure
Yeah.
are, stretching
You're gonna be
yourself
real
thin
busy
in
today.
that.
Well, joke's on you. I just created the thing. I'm about to hit cut on the laser.
Oh, did you use that AI to do it?
Yeah.
Just told him what you wanted to spit it out.
No, I just made it in
We're
Inkscape
just talking
real quick.
about something that I completely forgot about. The form. I don't remember.
Form, you're gonna let people give you
Oh,
feedback.
so like, I also, this is all speculation. I have 2 thoughts on how season 1 of this will go. I have a
Okay.
feeling that either like everyone is going to do the pro rules, or like 50 people are.
I think I suspect.
But here's the thing: like, if only 50 people do it, and we're giving straight bids for seasons still, like, you got like a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, I bet more than 50, but I bet no more than 300.
Yeah, I would say
there will obviously be like separate leaderboards too, right? Like,
Yeah, I think the leaderboard will be like 300 people.
that makes sense.
That's my guess. That's my over under. That's what I'm putting the line at. So let us know if you're taking the over 300 or under.
Like, even if you don't score well, like if we're giving circuit points for certain averages or whatever by pro standard, like people might just
Why
do
are
it
we
just
still
for that.
talking about circuit points?
Giving out
just
what?
get rid of those
Listen, I
things.
don't-
Jesus.
Arthur, don't have the answer to that yet either.
I
Okay,
know.
that's project. That's
You're
the
just-
next
You're talking
You're bringing up
about
more
complicating
things.
the game more by changing everything, and
Okay,
now you're
we're
talking about
working on
making
it.
it 3 times as complicated by adding circuit points back into it.
Yeah, gets together.
Whether
all
it's
right,
circuit points or whatever, I do imagine that the majority of bids for worlds will come from people throwing on the pro rules at tournaments, in league, etc.
Yep.
There will
That makes
probably
sense.
still be reserved amateur bids, but the proportion of amateur to like pro bids will be like, if we give out 224 pro bids, not pro bids like they exist now, right? But like bids for
from people
throwing
that
on
threw. Yeah.
pro rules, and we're giving out like 30 for people throwing on the amateur rules.
Yeah.
You still stand a much better chance of throwing in the pro rules.
Yeah, because the 30 amateur ones will obviously just be a lottery.
I mean, maybe. We don't know.
I don't know. Just kidding. That was just old.
Or
That's an
maybe there'll
old
be
joke.
an average cutoff. Like,
Yeah, that was an old joke.
actually, all worlds. All worlds.
Yeah, everything's a lottery. It's actually a lottery on if you get to throw these new rules too. So make sure you sign up for that.
PLS3 also a lottery.
Yeah. We're actually still doing a lottery for this one. Just the guaranteed sign up, get in, and then lottery from there. So April 1st, get your sign up, proleagueseries.com.
It's not an April Fool's joke either. It's a legitimate thing. So,
I did really try to convince WATL to put these rules out on April 1st, and the joke was that it's not a joke.
Yeah, you would have gotten a few people. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, those are the new rules. Yeah, if you have questions, find Tyler.
I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover. Oh, overtime.
I mean, they should have read it in the rules.
They can read it in the rules.
read the rules, but overtime is going to be no longer are you just going to go for back and forth kills,
We
hopefully.
wouldn't measure till the 5th one.
And they're going to be this, I assume, I didn't really, it's the center kill too, right?
Well, but so if you completely miss and I hit the 6th part, I win.
Right, but I'm saying,
Or if I hit the center and you hit the 6th, then you would win.
Then I win. Okay. So yeah, center important for that too. So I think it'll be good. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Hopefully, I mean, I think if there's issues that people find between now and then that are legitimate and get brought up, obviously I think they're going to get changed, but this gives a really good core rule set to go off of moving forward. So
yeah, and 2024, no doubt, is going to be kind of a rough transition for a lot of people because there's a lot of changes. But I think we'll find that just like every other rule change, I mean, people get used to it and it'll be just the status quo in a year and a half,
Yeah. This is off topic a little, but a change for 2024. How is the behind the scenes ranking system going?
Good. I think that maybe I'm still putting the rankings in and how like tournaments affect it just so people can see how tournaments affect ranking.
Yeah, on your
For the
spreadsheets.
tier 3s. But I think that in the future, like only the higher tiers would maybe affect your ranking, or certain tournaments would affect ranking. So we got to figure that out. And I don't think duels rankings work.
No,
there's just so many teams that don't have rankings that like,
yeah,
where do you rank them on like their seed, right, or what their ranking going in?
Yeah,
an average of the like, two throwers rankings,
right?
Yeah, but so I don't know, but then we're getting into like people didn't like that because duels is a team sport; it's not an individual sport.
Yeah.
Well, then that makes even more logic to do an average of the team's rankings, the people's rankings on the team.
Yeah, but that's their individual rankings, not their rankings as a team. I don't know. There's so many.
Well, I mean, as a base rank.
Yeah.
I think you could do that, and I think there's a player 1 plus player 2 minus
player 3
minus 5 or minus some factor
Cosine
there that would give you
that is close. How we do seeding currently for duels teams, as it is your individual averages minus 3.
Yeah, and that seems
because that was the average. Your people's average dropped when throwing duels.
I mean, you can't argue with the math. So I think it's good. I don't know. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah. Again, not arbitrary numbers. We have done math. We do think about things.
Yeah, it's not just random stuff. if you do have a question, I can assure you that they most likely have already asked themselves that question and will have some sort of answer for you.
I mean, you can't say that for everybody who was in that, but like definitely Tyler. I mean, Tyler is going to have thought about. It's all he does is think about this stuff.
It is literally my job now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think there will be answers.
Completely thought through most of these scenarios.
And don't get me wrong, guys. Part of me is scared that I might have just killed Asteroid. But
yeah.
I'm hoping I don't think so. Because again, due diligence across the board and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I hope not, because
there's a part of me that's a little.
I just cut a bunch of these kill shot things on my laser. So if you've killed Asteroid, I only have a few more months to sell.
We're gonna change. We're gonna change the size by just like a 16th of an inch, just to make all yours irrelevant.
Dang it.
I'm gonna figure out. It's gonna be what would that be, like 13/16 or something?
Yeah. Can you tell me the distance between a center bull and a 3 bull? No, I didn't think so.
Well, we do some Pythagorean theorem out here, but
I mean, you just need to know the size of the 4 ring and the 3 ring, and then the center of that. So the distance between the 2 rings. So I can figure it out. I'll make one of the things like Kyle was asking for.
I think like something where like so not like 90% of venues are gonna have the same size center board. So if you just made something that went against the center board, right? And then center it in the 3 ring, it should work.
Yeah, but it wouldn't center in the 3 ring then if their boards were a different width. But if I make it from the center, then it should be the same as their stencil if they're using a correct stencil. So as long as it centers on the center bullseye.
If you
then
made something like in the same concept as the perfect 6 that was like in the shape of like how a baseball field is, you could probably get it centered perfect because then you just rotate it in all 4 sides.
Yeah, but the problem is what Tyler was saying. If you have different width boards, like by even half an inch, now you've moved the bullseye by half an inch.
But we were also saying that you could fluctuate that height a little bit if you wanted to. So you could move it just 2 inches from the center board and it wouldn't matter.
It would just be a lot more. Yeah, it would just be a lot more accurate if I made like a bone shaped thing that was bullseye on this side and bullseye on this side. And it was literally could only go
right. But
in that circle
using the round portion, if that top and bottom of one of the flat sides was bottom of the black line and top of the other black line, you would just line the rounded portion up with the what would that be, the 3-2 line.
I mean, really, all right, here's what you gotta make is what you said you were most concerned about is that they're the same height.
Just make a square one.
So
that you just set up there.
You still get the bone thing, right? But it's for the top kills or the top bullseyes. No relation to the middle one. And you put one of those level things in the center of it. You make sure it's level. Then you draw.
That would work too.
I mean, that's a lot more work, and you're not going to do that, but that would be perfect.
I won't do that, but I could very easily just put like a small cutout where you would line it up with the top of the 4.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I don't need a level per se. I mean, you could eyeball it and get it really, really close. I mean, and even with a level, you'd never get it perfectly level. But if you did have a rounded cutout as well as these pieces, then you couldn't really screw that up as long as it was somewhat centered here and here. And that round was right there. I mean, boom. And then you would just flip it to do the bottom.
I'm sure somebody would find a way to screw it up.
Well, I mean, that's fine. People would find a way to screw it up if we sent them the boards already drawn.
True.
Very true.
They would literally just hang them like half an inch high or half an inch low or something. Like it would never be perfect, but
they'd use a rubber,
for those that do want to like
to smack them in.
That do want to test this now. What I did is I just took a perfect 6 and I put it against the center board and centered it in the 3.
I just literally I just took the bullseye and just hovered it over and made them.
Yeah.
It'd be fine to just use your existing stencil. All right, but I think we've fully covered rules.
Yeah.
So if you're at Keystone, you're listening to this, find Tyler. Don't come ask me any questions about the rules.
Or on the drive, like you're driving up to Keystone, probably listening to this.
Yeah, message Tyler, blow up his inbox.
I will be like, so we actually were talking about releasing these yesterday on Wednesday. Instead, we just put out a little preface for people to read, get used to the idea of big changes. But a big part of that was that I was not going to be available. I wasn't available last night. And I had a lot of other work to do during the day. So I wanted to make sure that on the day that we release these, I was very available for questions and comments and things like that. So yes, you can actually message me or comment, and I will be very available today.
And what hotel are you staying at?
Yeah, what room number?
Okay, I'm not trying to get murdered. Or you can talk to me.
But yeah, I think that's about it. So hopefully you made it this far. into the podcast. I don't know how long this is
Without
right now.
getting too upset.
Yeah,
So
we're
I do
almost
promise you
exactly
guys,
an
we
hour
are
and a
not
half.
trying to like hurt you or make this impossible. It really is like
Or make it just a pro only
thing.
game.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is. And it provides a lot of stepping stones, I think. Like, because you got like you're starting only going center, right? And then as you get better, then you add in those other bullseyes. And as you get better, you add in kill shots. And then you add in the second half, right? And then at the second half, you're only going center and then going reaching out and things like that. So there's a lot more like sort of achievements, I guess, along the way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So I don't know. I look forward to the challenge personally. From a thrower
It's hard.
standpoint, I
It's
do not
hard.
look forward to the challenge from a venue standpoint personally, but I think it won't be as much of an issue, especially with being able to kind of warm people up to the idea this early. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we'll see you here in a day or two with our next podcast. That'll be post.
It'll probably be
post an
posted
event
after
or
the
so
weekend.
Of Keystone. So yeah.
I mean, if I win everything, do I get to be on that one too?
Yes. Yeah, we'll have you back on, but it'll be mostly you answering more questions about the rules. Yeah,
we'll have to separate him and Ian, probably with like some fencing or something.
Yeah. Now we'll so we look forward to seeing everybody at Keystone. I really will have 3/4 inch kill shot stencils, so let me know if you need one, and see you guys there.
Ain't no way you take your laser on the plane.
Yeah.
We carry enough crap.
Now I'm gonna remote cut and just have another person bring them. It'll be fine.
There you go. Nice.
All
right, guys.
Adios.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.